Imagine asking an AI to check your medical records or summarize your private emails, and then discovering that same AI might accidentally memorize and repeat those details later. That's terrifying, right? Well, Google just released VaultGemma, a new AI model built from the ground up to protect your privacy by design. It uses something called differential privacy, basically a way to make sure the AI learns general patterns, not your personal secrets. Today, I'll break down what VaultGemma is, why it matters, and how this changes the future of safe AI. Here's the big problem with most AI today. They can sometimes memorize individual details from the data they're trained on. That might be as small as a phone number, or as big as part of a confidential document. For companies, that's a legal and compliance nightmare. For everyday people, it's a trust problem. VaultGemma is different. It's the first billion-parameter open AI model that Google trained specifically to avoid memorizing single private facts. It still learns how language works. It understands styles, phrases, and context, but it's designed not to repeat back-sensitive, one-off details. Think of training an AI like teaching a student from a giant notebook filled with people's stories. Normally, the student might memorize some exact sentences and repeat them later. Differential privacy is like putting a gentle blur filter on every page before teaching. The AI can still pick up the big ideas, grammar, tone, common knowledge, but it can't perfectly recall any single sentence. Google trained VaultGemma with a very strict blur setting. In plain language, if something private only appears once, the model behaves as if it never saw it. If this method sounds so smart, why didn't everyone do it earlier? Because adding that privacy blur used to wreck big AI training. It made learning unstable, required enormous batch sizes, groups of data processed together, and demanded way more computing power. Until now, teams basically had to choose. Do you want a strong model or a private model? You couldn't have both. Google and DeepMind finally cracked the formula. Here's what Google figured out. Training private AI isn't just about making models bigger. It's about balancing three things. Compute power. How much processing muscle, like graphics cards or specialized chips, you throw at training. Data size. How many examples or tokens of text you feed the model. Privacy strength. How much blur you add for protection. The surprising discovery. To keep privacy strong and still get good results, you often do better with a smaller model, trained in much larger groups. Think of it like studying. Instead of cramming dozens of random topics, you focus on fewer subjects, but study them in really big, intense sessions. That steadies the learning process, even with the blur. And the best part, there isn't only one perfect setup. There's wiggle room, meaning different model sizes can still work well if you balance them with the right training steps and group sizes. That's a lifesaver for teams with limited budgets. Armed with these new rules, Google just released VaultGemma, a model with 1 billion parameters. That's smaller than giants like GPT-4, but still powerful. There was one more hurdle, a privacy method called Poisson sampling. It's great for privacy math, but it messes with how data is shuffled and grouped, which makes training inefficient. Google's fix was a technique called Scalable Differentially Private Stochastic Gradient Descent. Don't worry about the mouthful. In simple terms, it let them train with fixed, consistent groups of data, while still keeping the privacy math airtight. Translation: they made privacy-friendly training practical at scale. So how did VaultGemma turn out? Its final performance matched the predictions from Google's new rules. That means the formulas actually work in practice. On standard AI tests, VaultGemma performs about as well as older models from around 2019, like GPT-2. That may sound outdated, but remember, this is the first private model at this size that's actually useful. Most importantly, when researchers tested if it would memorize training text, it showed no detectable memorization at the chosen privacy level. So while it's not cutting edge in raw smarts, it is groundbreaking in privacy and trustworthiness. What privacy really means here? VaultGemma protects privacy at the sequence level. That means chunks of about 1,000 words of training data are blurred for privacy. If a sensitive fact only appears once in that chunk, VaultGemma acts as if it never saw it. But if the fact appears many times across different sources, the model can still learn the general pattern. This way, the model protects individuals, but still learns what's useful for the broader population. Here's why this release matters for real-world products. Healthcare and finance. AI can now be trained on sensitive notes and documents without the risk of memorizing one-off private details. Enterprise assistance. Companies can build internal tools that summarize, organize, or analyze text with confidence that privacy is baked in. Developers and startups. Google's new training rules give clear guidance. No more blind trial and error. Now you can plan your training based on your budget and privacy goals. And because Google released VaultGemma's weights publicly on platforms like Hugging Face and Kaggle, the community can experiment, reproduce results, and push things further. Retrieval augmented assistance. Pair VaultGemma with a private database. Let the model reason about answers while sensitive facts are fetched safely on demand. PII-aware pipelines. Use it for tasks like summarizing tickets, redacting personal info, or drafting secure responses. Privacy-first experiments. If lawyers or compliance officers block you from fine-tuning bigger models, VaultGemma that lets you get started safely. It's not the most advanced model in the world. VaultGemma isn't competing with today's state-of-the-art systems like GPT-4 or Gemini. Its performance is closer to non-private models from a few years ago. It needs lots of computing power. To stay stable with privacy blur, it trains best in very large groups, which can be expensive. Privacy is limited to chunks of text. VaultGemma protects privacy at the sequence level. If you need privacy tied directly to whole users or accounts, that's another challenge for future versions. Just making models bigger doesn't help much if you don't also adjust the group size and number of training steps. Relaxing the privacy blur without boosting compute or data doesn't really improve results. There's flexibility. You don't need one exact setup. Several different model sizes can work well if you balance them with the right training strategy. These lessons turns privacy training from guesswork into a science you can plan around. Google just released VaultGemma, and it proves something powerful. AI can be both useful and private by design. Sure, it's not the smartest AI in the world yet, but it's private, predictable, and a giant step forward. As research keeps improving, the gap bet. Thank you for watching.